Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is a review of the latest Grayscale Mood Series record, which is the 133rd on their catalog. It's actually a debut from an artist named Javier Ho, who's actually from Spain, and it's a 4-track EP called Dub Thoughts. Normally, in any given month, usually Grayscale release around 2 to 3 records per month, but Alex at Grayscale's been really busy during the holiday, and this is already like the maybe sixth or seventh um, release in the coming already this year in the past roughly 33 days since beginning of the year, since I'm recording this on the third of the month. So Grayscale's been super busy to start out 2026, and so far the releases have been really good. Been really impressed, and the consistency has been there for the label and still going forward. And so I'm excited to hear this 4-track EP by another new artist, and which is always exciting. It's one thing Grayscale really um, succeed and do a great job of is being a home for a lot of up and coming dub techno producers. I think in the past the label has probably featured artists from 6 of the 7 continents, and there may have been one in there from from Antarctica. I just so I think probably almost all the continents, if I'm not mistaken, seem to have got somebody on this label to put out some music, and it seems to be doing a great job of collecting and have like an international footprint in most countries as one of the leading dub techno series is out there, and it's great to be a small part of that in doing the reviews for it. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the first track, which is called "A Piece of Hope," and this is by Javier Ho, and the EP is called Dub Thoughts. right, so that was the first track on the EP called "The Piece of Hope." This is a solid production overall. I feel like nice shuffle. Beats heavy, solid. The chords kind of linger in the background. Slight housey feel. Probably due to the bass line, but it's still fairly minimal. And that's kind of in the first like minute and a half, and then right around 1:30, the main chords kind of come in, and it gets a little bit more serious and kind of feels like it doesn't really, it almost loses the house feel a little bit and kind of is going to get deeper, and it does a nice job kind of balancing like a housey feel with a little bit of like minimal techno and dub techno. It's got a nice melodic touch. The vocal is an interesting touch as well. It's a little hard to hear what he says, but that's obviously the point of it. But it gives off a nice house vibe, nice flow. I think if you were playing at a club, it would definitely keep everybody happy on the dance floor. Nice and smooth, solid production overall. I give it 5 3/4 stars, so a 5.75 out of 10. So right on the high side of pretty good. Right, just a quarter below good. As far as the opportunities, it's really just a preference thing. Um, I like ambient dub. I like darker dub techno. I like more atmospheric dub techno. House and minimal techno inside dub techno is probably maybe my least favorite of like the moods within dub techno, and maybe even less than like original inspired dub. From like the reggae side, that's still kind of dub techno. So it's just kind of like a preference thing. I'm not necessarily into the housey, in as much into the housey side of dub techno, but I still think this is really solid, and it's right around good. It's solid production. It's just kind of a preference thing for me. I can see it growing on me a little bit with a few more plays. Maybe the melody comes out a little bit more, but I feel like maybe I don't think there's really any critique that I could give to make it better in any way. It's just really a preference thing. I could say it'd be more atmospheric, maybe another melody on top or something like that, or maybe kind of take it to the extreme a little bit in the melody. But it's a nice and gentle, paced, smooth track, and it does the job. Um, just it's just kind of a preference thing. Like if I was into like more housey dub techno, I could see this easily being a 7. It's just kind of a preference thing. So track two is called "Closely," and let's check that one out. All right, so that was track number two, called "Closely." This one, right off the bat, is already kind of more my speed, a little bit deeper. The beat is really kind of taut. The rattle has nice percussion in it. Then 35 seconds in, the main beat kicks in and heavy again, like the first track. Um, the chords are a little bit more attention getting, which I like. They're kind of looming, but then around 120, around minute 22, the deepness really kind of comes in more. The chords work well with the melody. The chords kind of have like a wobbly effect on them, which is really cool. And then right around 3 minutes, everything kind of comes together. The rhythm has a nice stop and start throughout the track, along with the percussion, so it kind of keeps it fresh. And then around 425, the chords evolve a little bit stronger, which is cool, and I like the fade out. And it breaks down really well in the last 30 seconds to as it kind of winds down. I like this one a little bit more than the last one. This one's is certainly deeper than the last one. Um, it still has definitely has a bouncy kind of, still a good dance floor track for dub techno. So still kind of in the more. I wouldn't say this one is housey. Is although it does have a little bit more of a bass line than normal. More of a bounce than dub techno can. But I definitely like the deeper vibe on this track, and I like the progression of the chords, and it works well with the melody, and there's some cool sounds on it as well. So yeah, I give this one 6.25 stars out of 10. Um, yeah, and track number three, we're gonna go on to the title track, which is called "Dub Thoughts." All right, so that was the title track, track number three, called "Dub Thoughts." A lot to say about this track. Good thing is, yeah, they're all good things to say. I like there's a gentleness and that kind of comes out, but you can tell this track is definitely going to be deeper. The highs are nice and crisp. Um, Bass line is really strong throughout, and really a key to the track in it feeling like hypnotic and kind of addictive. Like it definitely is due to that really good bass line. Definitely nice deepness on this track. It feels like the atmosphere is very deep in the background, which is really good. Um, it's even though the chords are fairly kind of still deep back there, but almost in the forefront. There's even a deeper layer in the background that gives it a nice depth in the track. Um, the more kind of tribal organic drums around like probably a minute and a half or so is really cool. Kind of add some toms and some nature sounds. You kind of hear some birds in the background, and the rhythm's really tight. I really like the rhythm and the bass line. Really nice. The chord work is really strong as well. It almost sounds like how a real drummer would play a dub techno track on the hi hats and the toms, because there was a nice kind of progression throughout the song of it adding additional toms and sort of hits, and that was really cool. It sounded like a real drummer, which was really interesting, which isn't normal in dub techno, and it's kind of exciting because you don't hear um, uh, kind of a more playful. Uh, I'm not a producer, so I don't know how to explain it, but when you're playing on the almost before instead of behind, he's almost like expecting the rhythm, and so he plays ahead of it. I wish I was a drummer so I can explain it. I don't know. I'm not really versed on the tempos or of playing like 4/5 or 3/8 or whatever those kind of those structures are, which you'd think would be important for a DJ to know. And I'm a DJ, but um, I've never really learned that part of it. And I probably should so I could understand mixing different genres probably a little bit better. But this track has a nice feel on the drummer, and I really like the kind of more aggressive kind of tom playing, and then also the like the kind of like the hits are really cool. I don't know if those are they're not cymbals or crashes, but they're not like low toms. I don't know if they're higher toms, but it's a different kind of cool. It's a cool sound, and it's creative as well the way it is. Um, Around 250 when it sounds like when there's a break going on, it sounds like there's some serious gate action happening where it makes it. This is kind of the first of the two times it does it, where it feels like almost like a DJ is doing it live, where he's kind of almost gating the beat where it doesn't come back fully, and it sounds like it's kind of like hitting a gate, or not really a compressor, more like a gate, and it kind of like it doesn't fully hit on, and then you kind of release it, and it kind of attacks stronger. It's really cool. It gives it a nice live feel. Also, it sounds like there's a little bit more of a melodic element that kind of lingers farther back in the scene as kind of the break happens. And I thought that would kind of come out a little bit more, and there was something kind of come out of that, like maybe another layer on top of the melody, and that never really came out. Although there were some sounds that sort of came out towards the end that sounded kind of came from the background. A couple times, like I think it was like 5:37 and maybe like almost 6 minutes in the track. And I don't know if that was part of it, but it was almost like a reverberance in there that I thought had the potential to maybe kind of come out and add another layer or another sound or after the break. But it's still really smooth, and it definitely has the live feel because of the kind of the beats coming in and out, and the the progressions of the drums, and kind of the live feeling of the drums as well. So has a really good club feel like for this track. Um, I think one of the things I really like as well is the release of the track in the last 40 seconds. It's very well produced, and it's subliminal the way it winds down and kind of cuts out everything, because you hear everything kind of fade out for a second, and it really winds down really quickly. I have to listen to it again to see what it kind of like drops out, but it really does it really nicely to where you're like, wow, that's such a smooth dropout, to conclude the track. Really strong, well, very well produced on that. I gave the track a 7.25. This is my favorite track so far, title track. I really like this track. It's got definitely makes me want to listen a few times and kind of catch the flow and catch some of the minor details which I might have missed, and kind of see how those drums come out, and also revisit that ending, which is really cool. Makes it nice to mix out of as well, that kind of ending. But really strong track. I really like this one. This one definitely has a lot of playability and the depth to want to play it multiple times. This is good stuff right here. All right, then the last track called "Sweet Moment." We're gonna play that one next. right, so that was the last track called Sweet Moment. This one kind of starts out as like the most sparse, probably the most spacious track, especially at the beginning. This definitely has my favorite melody in any of the tracks on here. It's ominous, kind of a unique tone, and it kind of alters a little bit, so it does kind of sound a little ominous. It almost sounds like a string instrument of some sort. I don't. It's too deep to be a violin, but it kind of almost has like a string instrument sort of sound. Um, I really like the rhythm, nice, subtle, crisp, kind of in the background, so you can kind of focus on that string sort of sounding instrument, and that really kind of ties you in. The static sound is a really good touch. It almost kind of comes over like a veil in certain parts, and the static kind of comes through, and that's really cool. This track is definitely more emotional, a little bit melancholy. Um, it's consistent. It almost has like a that. It almost sounds like a classical sound to it, especially that string sound to it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of more of like a something that like Wolfgang Voigt would do, sort of maybe not on the level of like Gas as far as that's more minimal, but it just kind of reminds me of like Wolfgang Voigt's work. Um, Maybe like recomposed with Carl Craig or something like that, but not as stark and minimal. But this is kind of like in that kind of vein for me. Um, I really like the kind of melody hook though. That's really key to the track. And I got this track at 7.25 stars. I think it's really strong. Um, it's tied with Dub Thoughts for my favorite track. I think Dub Thoughts is probably the most addictive, hypnotic track, and probably the best rhythm. But this one's kind of hits the more emotional side, more melancholy sound, which I generally like even more so than the addictive. So this is really close, and it's hard to choose a winner because both do a good job at the different styles. So yeah, really nice track. I like Sweet Morning a lot. So when I look at the overall of the EP, I have it 26.5 stars divided by 4, which is a 6.65. So yeah, I give the EP a 67 out of 100, which is on the highest side of a good EP. I think if the first track was a little bit stronger, um, I would see this in the sevens, in the 70s. I think this is really solid though for a first EP for an artist. If this is his first EP, I think it's a really nice debut. Um, I don't really have anything constructive to say, really. It's maybe preference thing. I feel like there's some good house vibes in here. Very light house vibes. I feel like there's a good rhythms going on. There's some melancholy sounds. There's some melody in here, and all the productions are definitely above average. Um, Maybe if there was any critique, I would say I feel like there may be an opportunity with I think three of the four tracks sort of have like breaks in them, and the rhythm kind of come back and it kind of finishes and everything is good, but maybe there's an opportunity for another layer to come out on some of these tracks and sort of conclude a little bit, possibly even better because they've sort of added something along the way. I think they all progress really well, but maybe there's an opportunity of something sort of coming out a little bit more because I do see some progression in some of the rhythms through the track. That's really nice, and I feel like some of the chords do evolve as well, especially in the I felt like in the first, I think it was the second and the third track, like the chords do evolve well in the last part, and get a little grittier or a little bit busier. But I feel like there could be like another melodic element or maybe some sound effects that could kind of fill in the gap a little bit. Like even the nature sounds like on track 3 was a nice that kind of came out towards the beginning and it was a nice layer. Maybe something in the end, maybe the last 2/3 of the track or last third of the track in tracks 3 and 4 really could have took it to a even a higher level. And especially on track 4 when I felt that melancholy melody hook is really creative. but it didn't really kind of come out at the end like I kind of hoped it would. It did because it the beat kind of came back in and I felt like the rhythm made it a little bit better, but I don't know if it really evolved like it probably could have, and even took it even higher. But that's just me. That's just a preference thing. I don't I'd be curious to know other people's opinions, see what they think. Um, if you're interested in hearing these again, well, of course you could replay the video. But if you're interested in more from the label or you're interested in purchasing this EP, it should be out in late February. I'll have the link below to Grayscale's Bandcamp page if you're interested in hearing some more from the label, and also uh, if you're interested in purchasing this EP or something else. I'll put the link down below. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Good, really good EP though. Really good EP. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm excited to hear um, the future for Javier Ho and see what he does, and see if he comes back to the label or see where he progresses from here. All right, thanks so much for listening.
He went